This is the most excited I've been to record a podcast ever. Like, ever, my boys. Usually when I do these podcasts, I'm always bitching and complaining about something bad that happened. But not this one. Not this episode, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm coming off of one of the best weekends of your boys' life. This weekend was so pitch perfect. From Friday to Sunday, this weekend was... If I could have more weekends like this, I would be so damn happy. This was easily the best weekend of 2020, and it was just a fantastic 3 days. We started off with Friday. Your boy was gone from home. I wasn't at home these last 3 days. Came back yesterday after the Lakers-Clippers game. So your boy was out of town. Well, not really out of town, but I was just gone from not being home. And man, it started off Friday with a bang. And, you know, I talked about this on last week's episode of Hollywood Uncensored, how this last weekend was going to be the death row hell's weekend for the Lakers. I don't know if any other team in the NBA has had to face the Milwaukee Bucks and the LA Clippers in a 3-day span. Not to mention, they changed the time. The Clippers hadn't played since Thursday. The Bucks were coming into this game with a lot of, a chip on their shoulder, a way to prove to the world that they're the best team in the NBA. And the Lakers handled their business, my boys. LeBron James. This is the LeBron James that I have watched for years. The LeBron James of Cleveland, the LeBron James of Miami, the LeBron James that went back to Cleveland. This is the King James that we all knew and we all were really excited to get as a Los Angeles Lakers. This dude, when he puts it on drive and he's just going 100 miles per hour, there is nobody. And I mean this, and you could debate me on this in the comment section, but there is nobody in the NBA better than LeBron James when he is in his bag. When he hits that next gear, nobody is better than the King. The King is still the King. He is still reigning supreme. And I thought, man, what he did this weekend was so magical, was so impactful, my boys, that he is for sure, in my opinion, and this is not a shot at Giannis, but I think LeBron James has claimed this year's MVP award. The amount of work and the beauty of the way he played in Friday and Sunday's games was so amazing. It was so unbelievably amazing. And also Anthony Davis, back-to-back, I think this is his third straight game that he's had 30 points or more. And we've had this discussion about Anthony Davis before in the past. Is he going to step up in these big, meaningful games? This is not like playing in New Orleans. This is Los Angeles, Staples Center. You're wearing the purple and gold. These were the two marquee matchups that the NBA drools over. And Anthony Davis showed up. 30 points in the last 3 games, especially on the Sunday game. Friday's game, he was pretty off the first 3 quarters, and then he just took over in the fourth. But let's just jump right into this discussion, my boys. I thought this was going to be a very bad weekend for the Lakers. I really did. I'll be the first one to say it. I really thought that this weekend the Lakers were possibly going to get exposed, and they were going to give nothing but ammo to those guys like Skip Bayless and Max Kellerman and Marcellus Wiley. All the NBA Twitter marks out there were going to use these last 2 games to really just bury the Lakers, to pretty much go on Twitter and gloat to say, hey, we told you so. They're pretenders, not contenders. That's not the case, though. The Lakers showed up in that game in Milwaukee. They showed up in that game against the Clippers on Sunday. The Milwaukee game, very frustrating to start, though, because Milwaukee looked like they were ready to go. They looked like they were definitely ready to blow the Lakers off. You watch that first quarter, man. They looked as good as they are promised. They looked really well-sounded. The roster is built so perfectly well. Giannis is an absolute monster, my boy. That kid... Man, he is unbelievably talented, but it was very eye-opening to see what happened in that fourth quarter. We'll get into that as we go along in this episode. Your boy's happy. I just gotta admit it. I am so elated. I am so happy. This is one of the first podcasts that I'm ever going to upload where I'm actually genuinely happy and excited. But anyways, that's besides the point. We'll get into all that right now. The Milwaukee game was frustrating. Throw that out there. Anthony Davis did not show up those first 3 quarters. He was nowhere to be found. He was getting outplayed by Giannis. He was getting beat on the boards. He picked up 3 fouls in the first half. Very non-existent on the boards. Not defending the rim whatsoever. He was just non-existent. But LeBron was carrying that team for the first 3 quarters. He took this matchup with Giannis very personally. And you could tell he was ready to go. And he's been ready to go since the All-Star break. And I talked about this, I think, on last week's episode, how LeBron has hit another gear since the All-Star weekend. This dude is on a different level, and when he's on that level, good luck. Good luck trying to stop this guy because he is just Super Saiyan LeBron right now. This is Lee MVP style LeBron James, and he took this matchup with Giannis very, very personally. It was very crazy to see, man, because it's been a while, man, to see a Laker team just so talented and just put the beat down on another elite team. Because, we've been hearing all the trash talk, especially your boy. I've heard it since the last few months, since December. All I've heard since Christmas Day is how Milwaukee is so much better, how the Clippers are so much better, how the Lakers don't match up well with the Bucks, how the Clippers have way too many weapons that are just going to beat the Lakers every single time. And the Lakers finally sent the message that they are on the even playing ground. And at the end of the day, they have the best player in the world on their team. In any of those series, they have two of the best three players in the NBA. Anthony Davis did not show up for those first three quarters against Milwaukee, but when his shot started to drop in that fourth quarter, it was a huge significance between what the Bucks have and what the Lakers have. Because when Giannis was trying all his best to bring his team back in there, and it might have backfired because he might have a little lingering knee injury, which could have been a lot worse. On TV, the way he landed on Avery Bradley looked a lot worse than it actually could have been. So hopefully that injury isn't too significant. I think they're saying he's only going to miss up to a week. But he was trying everything he can. Him and Eric Bledsoe, even though Bledsoe saw like absolute crap, they were both trying to will this team to get the victory, to come back in. Because the third quarter, LeBron James took over that game. And you could tell the Lakers were pulling away. Inch by inch, they were quickly pulling away because LeBron was just on a different mode. Giannis could not contain LeBron in the post. And that's been LeBron's biggest advantage so far since the All-Star break that I have noticed. He's not really settling for these jumpers. This dude is mercifully attacking the basket over and over and over again. And they can't stop him. There's no answer. He's able to get position in the post. He's able to push the defenders very easily to the basket, where he's able to either pick up a foul or strongly go into the rim to lay it in easily. He's hitting the fadeaway jumper from the post beautifully, Kobe-esque, I must say. He's not settling with the three. Here and there, he will settle for it, but he's somehow, at age 35 years old, he has somehow found a way to just easily glide to the rim whenever he wants, no matter if it's Kawhi, Paul George, Giannis, Chris Middleton, Patrick Beverly. We'll get into the Patrick Beverly slander. Your boy's gonna talk a lot of shit. I'm saving the Clipper stuff for in the middle. I want to get the Milwaukee thing out of the way. But man, this guy, it's scary to watch. And if I'm any other NBA team, an elite NBA team, seeing how good LeBron James right now is, it's a fright to see, man. He's on that revenge tour, and we've been waiting to see it, and I didn't know we were going to see it. A lot of people are just assuming that the wheels are going to fall off. This dude, it looks like he just gone Super Saiyan on all of us. But in the third quarter, he took over completely. They had no answer for him. Not even Giannis could stop him in the post. Fourth quarter, Davis came to himself. You can see he woke up that fourth quarter. I think when he realized that he was no longer going to pick up fouls here, he was able to settle on a jumper, hit the post moves, get to the rim easily because Giannis had like 4 or 5 fouls. There's no way Brook Lopez is going to stop Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis got into his bag in that fourth quarter, which really helped the Lakers pull away. Most importantly, though, one of the biggest reasons the Lakers won that game, Alex Caruso. Caruso, man, unbelievable play in the fourth quarter there in the Friday game against Milwaukee. There's videos out there of him legitimately boxing out Giannis Antetokounmpo. Alex Caruso, the dude's probably, I want to say 6'3". I'm not sure how tall Alex Caruso is. Let's look that up real quick because he's not that tall. But the boy was in the post battling all game. All game. And in the fourth quarter, it really showed how important this dude is. Okay, Alex Caruso 6'5", so he's 2 inches taller than me. 6'5". 6'5" guard in the post battling with Giannis Antetokounmpo and not allowing Giannis to gain position for an offensive rebound. He put amazing defense against Chris Middleton. And at the end of the day, if there is a Bucks-Lakers finals matchup, which I don't think there will be, by the way, and it's not because of the Lakers, and I'll tell you this right now, I don't think the Bucks will get past the East. What the Bucks remind me of are of the old Cleveland teams with LeBron James. And I'm talking about the Cleveland teams before LeBron left to Miami. Those Cleveland teams with Wally Szczerbiak and Delonte West and Boobie Gibson and Mo Williams and Zadrunas Ilgauskas and Drew Gooden, those teams were really good in the regular season. Those teams were winning 60-plus games every year that LeBron was in Cleveland before he left to Miami. But whenever those teams would make it to the playoffs, minus the 1 year that they got swept in the Spurs by the finals, they were always the bridesmaid, never the bride. When the postseason started, all those players I had just named weren't showing up. And I think, unfortunately, that's going to be the case with the Giannis Bucks. I think they'll make it to the second round. Hey, I think they'll even make it probably to the conference finals. But as of right now, if I had to pick an NBA Finals participant from the East, I would say it's either going to be Miami or it's going to be the Boston Celtics. I think those two teams are built for postseason success more than the Bucks are. Because you're asking guys like Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, Robin Lopez, Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, guys like that to step up in postseason play. And I don't think those guys are necessarily going to step up in the postseason. So as much as I think Giannis does have a serious case for MVP, even though LeBron had one of the craziest weekends I've ever seen, I don't think the Bucks will be in the finals. I know a lot of people have that as penciled in. Well, depending who you ask. If you ask Paul Pierce and, the unbiased, the very unbiased Paul Pierce, he's going to tell you it's going to be Clippers Bucks. But after watching the Bucks, man, and when Chris Middleton isn't on fuego and he's not scoring like a crazy man and he's locked down, the Bucks just don't have that lure that they usually have. Because Chris Middleton was super ineffective. He was very, very terrible on the game of Friday. The Lakers completely locked down Chris Middleton. And when Chris Middleton's locked down, Giannis, who's not a great shooter by any means, even though whenever he plays the Lakers, he's knocking down threes like crazy. And he's not necessarily a good free throw shooter either. But when Giannis has to take the blunt of the offense because Chris's shot isn't dropping, you're asking other guys from the bench and you're asking Brook Lopez and Eric Bledsoe to show up and help. That's the biggest difference between teams like the Bucks and the Lakers and the Clippers, where the Lakers have, and the Clippers, and I can't believe I'm giving the Clippers props for this, they have two legitimate all-stars. Not just all-stars, and because Chris Middleton is an all-star, but they have two legitimate top 10 players that can get it done on a nightly basis that you can count on. Maybe not Paul George fully, but there's nights that you can count on Paul George, unless he's being guarded by Joe Ingles. But when Chris Middleton is off, that Bucks team is very easily exposed. And if the Bucks lose tonight, by the way, the Lakers immediately become one game back of the best record in the NBA. With Giannis going through these injuries right now, and hey, I never wish injury on anybody. I hope he recovers very soon, and it sounds like he avoided a very serious injury, so that's awesome. But the Lakers are in a position here, man. If they could rack some of these dubs up, and the schedule doesn't get any easier. I think this week we have a pretty tough schedule as well. But if they could rack some dubs up, and Giannis is out, and it looks like the Bucks are kind of tanking here for the next few weeks, which also kind of helps Giannis' MVP case. I see what you're doing, Milwaukee. The Lakers could kind of surprisingly end up with the number one record in the NBA, which would help them get home court advantage in the NBA Finals. Not that matters, because I do think right now my NBA Finals favorite to make it out of the East is Miami. But you could talk me into Boston. I'm not high on Milwaukee. I think the level of play is going to affect the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm not sold that Mike Budenholzer is going to be a good playoff coach. I think he's a great regular season coach. But once the postseason starts, I think a lot of things are going to be exposed. And I think you saw a lot of those things exposed when the Milwaukee played Miami and when Milwaukee played the Lakers. I think the Lakers and the Heat have really kind of set the blueprint of how to play the Bucks. So it's going to be interesting to see how teams use that come postseason play. But yeah, that was such a big W against the Bucks. The way LeBron played against Giannis, and I mean the Bucks and their Twitter talking all this shit, man. Remember Giannis, that first matchup, the weekend that Rise of Skywalker came out, was doing the whole crown thing. I loved how LeBron reclaiming the throne that he never lost. I know Max Kellerman likes to say that LeBron lost the throne. I don't know how a guy lost the throne when he was in the finals 6 years in a row prior. He lost to Curry and Durant. But now he loses the throne because he missed the playoffs the year prior when he was dealing with injuries, and because Kawhi was able to make it out of a weak Eastern Conference and play a Warriors team that had no Kevin Durant and had no Klay Thompson. Because I hate to be the one to say it, I think the Warriors force a Game 7 and possibly win a Game 7 if Klay Thompson doesn't unfortunately tear his ACL. And I think the Warriors win that series in 6 games if Kevin Durant doesn't have that injury. I really do. And that's revisiting the past. But it's just funny when people really think that LeBron James is no longer the best player in the NBA because Kawhi Leonard had a little bit of a cute playoff run last year. And don't get me wrong, Kawhi was fantastic in the playoffs last year. But just remember, the best player in the NBA does reside in Los Angeles. It's just not the Clippers. It's the Lakers. And the Clippers, man, I mean, give it to them. They talked so much shit for the last few weeks. All the shit talking they have done. One of the funniest things I saw on Twitter, I think it was Friday or Thursday. I believe it was Friday. For whatever reason, the Clippers bloggers and the Clipper media were trying to present this this theory or this narrative per se, that the Clippers are this like blue collar basketball team, that they're for the fans of people, the Angelinos in Los Angeles that work 3 jobs a day, that are low income. That's who the Clippers are. The same Clippers, by the way, that's owned by a guy that's worth like $60 billion, and he's not even from Los Angeles. This is the same guy saying that the Laker fans are all middle to high class. That's the narrative the Clippers are trying to present themselves. And my response to that is very simple. You can't talk all that shit. You can't have Patrick Beverley barking like the chihuahua he is. All bark, no bite. And they proved that yesterday. And then try to present yourself as this ghetto underdog Los Angeles team or the other Los Angeles like Paul George likes to state. Because that's not what you are. And I get it. That's why they put all those billboards that aren't cheap. But hey, they're the blue-collar team. But they put all those billboards in Los Angeles. You can drive through any freeway in LA. You're going to see one of these stupid billboards that say snore over style, spotlights over streetlights, whatever. They're trying to present themselves as this gritty underdog team. And one of the funniest things I heard, my boys, the funniest thing I heard was, I don't know who this girl was, but she sounded like she was a TikToker. She really did. She really did sound like she just did like 5 TikToks in a day. But she's on this podcast for The Ringer, and they're having this discussion, or I think it was The Athletic. It was either The Ringer or The Athletic. I forget which it was, because it was Friday. And again, your boy had a great weekend. I don't recall everything that happened. But she's on this podcast, and she's saying, yeah, it's like Clipper fans or fans that actually love basketball. But Laker fans that attend Laker games are just clout chaser and influencers. Now, the only influencer I've ever met in my life is Rossi Montgomery. Shout out to Rossi. And I never knew that Jack Nicholson was a clout chaser. I'm not aware. I never knew all these years that Jack Nicholson has been going to Laker games. Apparently, he was just clout chasing. For his grandson, maybe? I must have missed the memo where Jack Nicholson became a Laker fan because of he was a clout chaser. What an unbelievably stupid comment to make. Not even just to make that comment, but leading into that game on Sunday. They knew what they were doing. They knew that this was the weekend that they could have buried the Lakers. And they could have really done that. They could have buried the Lakers very, very easily. But that's not what happened. But either way, they presented this narrative that they're this blue-collar team for the ghetto part of Los Angeles, the lower class of LA. Yeah, okay, sure. I'm sure there is Clipper fans in LA. I'm not going to say there's not. That would be very ignorant of your boy to say that there is no Clipper fans. That's not true. They have a 5% fan base in Los Angeles. But it's very much like the LA Angels of Disneyland, of Orange County, of Santa Ana, whatever the hell you want to call the Angels nowadays. Where they have fans, but they're not like die hard like the Lakers. And this girl, this TikToker, whoever she was, because we never find out who she was in the podcast. I remember the podcast audio leaked online, and Laker fans were very much triggered over it, and rightfully so. I mean, who was she to say, and who are the Clippers to say that only middle class, high class, clout chasing influencers can only be Laker fans? I'm sorry, I've been to many Laker championship parades. I have yet to see middle-class, high-class clout chasers out there. That's just from my experience, though. But it was just hilarious to hear. And then she compares the Clippers to the Dodgers. Ah, man. You guys are trying too hard to be accepted. You're trying way too hard. You're not anything like the Dodgers. You're not even close to being like the Angels, honestly, because they have Mike Trout. And they even have a little bit of a following. Because the Angels at least won a championship. But you're nothing like look, if you're like the Dodgers, then please send one of your players to a Dodger game and see what happens. Or better yet, go on YouTube or go on Google and Google what happened the last time the Clippers sent a player of theirs to a Dodger game. Go ask Chris Paul, go ask Blake Griffin, hell, go ask Matt Barnes, go ask DeAndre Jordan. You think Dodger fans really mess with the Clippers? They're trying way too hard to be accepted by this city. And I could tell this from the moment the billboards went up. I could tell this when they came out with those terrible city jerseys with Los Angeles and Old English. They're trying to be the ghetto team for LA. Good luck with that. It all leads to the game on Sunday. Your boy's hyped. I'm having a great weekend out of town, having my vacation, having a good time. Very nervous about this game because I know if the Lakers go down 3-0 in the regular season, not that it matters, but if they do, all these guys are going to talk their shit. They probably had it saved in their drafts on NBA Twitter, like they always do. What the Lakers did was show the NBA, show the Mike Wilbons, the Paul Pierces, the cum jugglers who were sitting there and talking about how amazing the Clippers were, talking to them like they were the 96 Chicago Bulls, acting just because the Clippers were, 10-0? Well, I mean 10-1 now, but 10-0 with a fully healthy team, even though you could put an asterisk on that 10-0 record because when they played the Bucks a few months ago, they were fully healthy, just they didn't have JaMychal Green. So Paul Pierce, it was wrong about that. Kawhi, Paul George, Patrick Beverley, they all played in that Milwaukee game, and the Bucks beat them by 30. But nobody likes to mention that. They want to make it seem that they didn't have a full, healthy roster. Hell, I even see Clipper fans saying that they didn't have a full roster yesterday because they didn't have Joakim Noah. What are we doing? Anyways, that's besides the point. We'll get to that. Patrick Beverley. Man, Patrick. Really does make me laugh. That dude, he's about that life. So he says. He wanted the smoke. He says he can guard LeBron James. I don't know why he's on, getting so triggered saying that, it's no challenge to guard LeBron. And I love how ESPN was talking about today. And the one thing they show is that, like, LeBron's 0 for 2 whenever Patrick Beverley guards him. Because, yeah, that's a stat that matters. LeBron shot the ball twice against Patrick Beverley, and he missed both of them. That really shows you all first-team defense for Patrick Beverley. My boy ended up with 2 points. 2 points. My boy, you talk too much, dog. You talk way too much. Again, I bring back the analogy. You're a chihuahua. You just bark and don't bite. You talked all that garbage, and LeBron flicked you like a flea on the court, my dude. That guy was unguardable. I just love how LeBron not once made it seem like he knew Patrick Beverley was there. Completely ignored Beverley's existence. And I thought that was the absolute best way to handle somebody like Patrick Beverley. Because you want to know who's a clout chaser. Oh, it's Bev. That's Bev. And then that brings me to Marcus Morris. Or how NBA Twitter was calling him, Denver Carmelo Anthony. Let me take a sip of my beverage before I say that again. Denver Carmelo Anthony. That is what NBA Twitter was calling this man before and after he got traded to the Clippers. Now remember, the Lakers were also in negotiations for Marcus Morris, but the Knicks wanted Kyle Kuzma and Danny Green. The Clippers got him in some trade for Mo Harkless and 2 G League created players and a first-round pick. Homeboy had 1 point last night. 1 point. 1 point. This is the same guy that Paul Pierce sat there, who has a national televised job on ESPN, and sat there and hyped these guys up, saying these were the guys that were going to kill the Lakers. Patrick Beverley, 2 points. Marcus Morris, 1 point. Kawhi Leonard, NBA Twitter's GOAT. NBA Twitter's favorite player. The apparently Michael Jordan reincarnated. 2 rebounds, 0 assist. Paul George, 31 points. Fantastic game. He was in his bag. He was unguardable last night for 3 quarters. Because in the fourth quarter, other than some free throws, you didn't do a thing, my boy. You acted like it was a playoff game in the first round. 0 for 2. There were 2 3-point shots. He only made 2 points or 4 points off of free throws because the Clippers started ref baiting because they knew they had the game lost and all they were trying to do was stop the clock to get the ball back and score. Lou Williams. Man, the Lakers torched Lou Williams. They torched him. And the funniest part of the whole thing is LeBron James cannot be guarded. He cannot be guarded by Kawhi. He cannot be guarded by Paul George. He cannot be guarded by Marcus Morris. Nobody. Anybody that they put in front of the King, he went through them like nothing. And it was such a satisfying cap-off to an absolutely amazing weekend. 0 assists for Kawhi Leonard. If LeBron James would have had 0 assists, that would have been the narrative for the entire day on First Take and Skip Bayless' terrible show. You would have had Marcellus Wiley screaming on FS1 about LeBron James having 0 assists. If Kyle Kuzma would have finished the game with 1 point, and trust me, I'm Kyle Kuzma's biggest critic. I love the guy personally. I have met Kyle Kuzma. He's a very nice kid. But I know what that kid's potential is, and when he plays bad, I call him out for it. But he has been a dog on defense, and I will give Kyle Kuzma his full props for the first time ever. That's how you know your boy's in a good mood. When I am giving props to Kyle Kuzma, his defense last night on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in the second half was outstanding. It was outstanding. Major props to Kyle Kuzma. Acquiring Markieff Morris allowed Kyle Kuzma to play his natural position, and the end game has been fantastic. But if Kyle Kuzma would have scored 1 point like Marcus Morris, NBA Twitter would have dragged him. If anybody else would have scored only 2 points on a starting team like Patrick Beverley did, NBA Twitter would have dragged him. It's funny to me when the narrative changes, NBA Twitter doesn't have anything to say. Oh, I mean, yeah, they did. Because now they're saying it's 2-1. Yeah, I mean, you're also 2-1 against the Kings, and the Kings beat y'all twice at home on your home court. The Lakers looked unbelievable this weekend. They looked so damn good. And we talk about LeBron, but again, let me mention what Anthony Davis did out there. He started the game very hesitant, but once he got comfortable, there was nobody on that Clipper team that can guard Anthony Davis. And he was playing such great closeout defense on these Clipper shooters. This dude is the third best player in the NBA. He has to prove that he's ready for the moment, but when he is in his bag, he is in his bag, and there is nobody in the NBA that can stop Anthony Davis. This dude dropped 30 points, and it seemed like it was simple for him. LeBron completely changes the tempo, and Anthony Davis cleans it up. They are the best duo in the NBA today, and it's not even close. And this is like the first time since I started this channel that I could gloat, because now we got that big D energy, my boys. Because now I don't have to hear about the Clippers winning 2 games over none from the Lakers. It's just the truth, my boys. It's just the honest truth. The Lakers went against Milwaukee, one of the best offensive defensive teams in the league and the best record in NBA, and they humbled them because it wasn't necessarily close. The Bucks made their run, but for the third and fourth quarter, the Lakers had a double-digit lead. The Lakers faced the Clippers 100% healthy, took their best punch in the first half, and in the second half adjusted, and the gap between them completely grew in the fourth quarter. LeBron James, as of right now, is the MVP. I know Giannis is unbelievable, but this guy is on a different level. This team is 1 game back if Denver wins, which I think they will. Let me go check that score out real quick. I think Denver wins tonight, and that will make the Lakers 1 game back for the number 1 record in the NBA. 76-71, so they're not winning by a lot, even though Denver losing would kind of be good for the Lakers as well. But I'm just saying, if we're going to be crowning Giannis because Milwaukee has the best record in the NBA, if the Lakers claim that seed and LeBron James is playing the way he's playing, this guy's going to win his 5th MVP. He is that unbelievably good right now. And it's amazing to watch. After years of watching this LeBron James do this for other teams, and after the year that we had as Lakers fans last year with the growing injury and all the young guys not ready for the moment, seeing it in its full capabilities, this fully operational, brawny battle station, it was a sight to see, especially rocking the Laker colors. On a court that said Clippers, where Clipper fans were all happy and getting hard-ons because they were chanting MVP to Kawhi in the first quarter while I was at the free throw line. My boy, go watch the ending of that game and see how 90% of Staples Center are standing up, and most of them, if not all of them, are wearing yellow and purple or white. Nobody believes in the underdog Clippers, man. And I mean, nobody believes in that they're the underdogs. I do believe in them as title contenders. But stop the whole underdog, ghetto, hard blue-collar team narrative that you're trying to push for the Clippers. They want the smoke. They talk the shit. They bragged about being 10-0 healthy. And they ran into the king and the brow. And they got humbled. And if you watch the Christmas game, the Christmas Day game, if the Lakers don't choke that game, then what's the narrative now? Because for 2 games now, the Lakers have had in 2 games against the Clippers, 2 out of 3, the Lakers have had double-digit leads in both of those games. But nobody brings that up. I'm just saying this was the perfect weekend for the Lakers. I don't remember the last time a weekend went so perfectly for this franchise. They clinched a playoff spot for the first time in 7 years. Or 6 years, depending how you see it. The last time they clinched a playoff spot, Dwight Howard was a Laker, Kobe, may he rest his peace, tore his Achilles, and we were the 8th seed. So it wasn't even anything to be excited about when we made the playoffs last time. And that was 6 to 7 years ago. They clinched a playoff spot against the best record in the NBA, and then they closed off the weekend with a big win against the Clippers. You couldn't have written this better for them. LeBron James is now in the discussion for MVP. Anthony Davis, I don't care what Utah fans say. Anthony Davis is the head lead runner for Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know why people aren't mentioning this enough, but I think Frank Vogel is the Coach of the Year as well. Having to deal with a whole new team, a whole new offense, a whole new coaching staff, 2 star players, and he gelled them together. He brought them together so seamlessly. I don't see why he's not getting the respect he deserves. And while everybody brings up the Clippers, man, they were fully healthy yesterday. No excuses. The guy who wants all the smoke, PB, Patrick Beverley, 2 points. Denver Carmelo, the guy the Clippers acquired that apparently made the Clippers so much better than the Lakers, 2 points. Kawhi Leonard, 0 assists. Paul George, 0 field goals made in the fourth quarter. Now it's 2-1, and I get that. There's still things to be done. But again, this was the perfect weekend for the Lakers. Absolutely perfect. And I'm so happy I get to do a podcast where I'm not absolutely miserable or just offended or just mad or calling for somebody to be traded or fired. This was the perfect weekend. And again, your boy was on vacation, living it up, having an absolute awesome time, drinking these new Corona seltzers that are not that bad. Drinking the new White Claw flavors, the watermelon one. The watermelon White Claw, that thing is dangerous, my boys. Very easy to drink. This was as great as a weekend as it can get. Pitch perfect. Very, 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 very great weekend. And the Lakers did the perfect job. And then they also signed Dion Waiters, which I think I talked about this last week. And I think I predicted that they would have signed Dion Waiters. From what I was told, that was always going to happen. And I think I explained that on this podcast, how, Dion was a former client of Rob Pelinka. He works for Clutch. Obviously, the Clutch bonds and the Lakers front office is very strong. I always knew it was going to be Dion. I never thought J.R. Smith had a chance. But yeah, Dion Waiters is a Laker. I'm not expecting much. I'm not going to say what I expect from him. This is a guy who probably needs a lot of time to get into shape because he's only played a total of 3 games this year. Obviously, we know about the overdose to the gummy situation. But if Patrick Beverley could give you anything, and this is a guy who averaged 14 points per game at one point, and go look at his numbers, the contract year he had, his first year in Miami. They were pretty good. They're pretty legit. That's why he got that ridiculous contract for Pat Riley. But if he gives you anything of that, that's just another weapon the Lakers just added. At the end of the day, the Lakers added Markieff Morris and Dion Waiters for nothing. Literally nothing. Added both of them for free. Because, I mean, they weren't playing Troy Daniels. I know Troy went to Denver. Good for him. He deserves to play somewhere. And DeMarcus Cousins wasn't going to come back. As much as I was really hoping he would, there was no way he was going to come back. And even if he was magically cleared from a torn ACL, how would you play him? You think he's ready for postseason play at any moment after coming back from a torn ACL? I don't see it. It's the same thing as Klay. Klay Thompson tore his ACL during the finals, and they're like, he's not coming back at all. So the Lakers pretty much traded Troy Daniels, Boogie Cousins on the torn ACL for Markieff Morris and Dion Waiters. You do that every time. The Clippers gave up a first-round pick, 2 G League creative players, and Mo Harkless, who played defense, for a guy who scored 2 points last night against the Lakers. Or no, that's me being kindly. He scored, my apologies, he scored 1 point last night. The rivalry's on, or whatever it is. They're trying to make it a rivalry. I think it's all fun. I just love that they won that game. That game was so big for them. That W was so big. Even bigger than the Milwaukee one. Because it changed the narrative, even though they're trying to force one anyways. It was just funny to see another team that Paul Pierce come juggles fall apart. But perfect weekend for the Lakers. Perfect weekend for the Lakers. What wasn't a perfect weekend, though? WWE, man. I watched a little bit of clips here and there of WWE Elimination Chamber last night and this morning. Just a little bit, because I know it was on yesterday. Excuse me. And, man, what a terrible show. What a terrible pay-per-view. I feel bad for anybody that actually paid to watch WWE Elimination Chamber, or anybody that had to review or do a prediction show for WWE Elimination Chamber, because it was garbage. It was such a useless show. It was such a waste of time. At the end of the day, go watch that don't watch the pay-per-view. Actually, don't waste your time, because it's legitimately the biggest waste of time that I have ever seen. It is amazing to me that in less than a year, the WWE has buried the Hell in a Cell and the Elimination Chamber. As me growing up during the Ruthless Aggression era, I loved the Hell in a Cell. I loved the Elimination Chamber. I remember I watched the first one where Shawn Michaels won the World Heavyweight title. As much as I can't stand Goldberg, what him and Triple H did in the Elimination Chamber, him going through everybody, and then like him kicking the tube open and them going at it, that was fantastic. Big fan of Hell in a Cell matches. I think Hell in a Cell matches are a great way to really end big rivalries. One of my favorite ones has always been Triple H versus Mick Foley. Obviously Taker McFoley, even though that wasn't really a full match, it was more of a spectacle of Mick being tossed around and almost being killed by the Undertaker in that match. Another favorite one for me is Shawn Michaels versus Triple H at Bad Blood, or Triple H versus Kevin Nash, where Mick Foley was a special guest referee. Even Orton versus Undertaker was fun, and even Triple H versus Batista at Backlash at Hell in a Cell was really good. I've always been a mark for the cage. I've always been a mark for Hell in a Cell and Elimination Chamber. So it's very distasteful to me and very, very disrespectful to see what the WWE has done to both of them. And I've always thought neither of them should be a pay-per-view. Like TLC I can understand, because you could have different variations of ladder matches and table matches and chairs matches. But I never thought that Hell in a Cell should be a solo pay-per-view, nor Elimination Chamber. Hell in a Cell should be the spectacle of a big pay-per-view. WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. Same thing with Elimination Chamber. Like, it shouldn't be a pay-per-view at all. It should be a singular matchup for a big pay-per-view like SummerSlam or Survivor Series, like it used to be in the past. And no offense, and this is not a shot at women's wrestling whatsoever. And I like what they did with Shayna Baszler. They made her look strong. They made her look like Goldberg in that Elimination Chamber I just brought up against Triple H. But at the end of the day, if you take the Shayna Baszler stuff out, that was probably the worst Elimination Chamber match I've ever seen. It was so bad leading up to the Baszler, going through everybody. It was such a bad Elimination Chamber match. It was probably the worst. And in less than a year, they gave us the worst Hell in a Cell match in company's history and the worst Elimination Chamber match in company's history. It just, man, the main roster creative team continuously drops the ball. It's just, I can't register how such a great concept of a match is just buried completely. And the tag Elimination Chamber match had some cool spots. But at the end of the day, I don't want to see tag teams in Elimination Chamber. I mean, it just looks like a cluster. And yeah, there were some cool moments in that match, but it didn't really do anything for me at the end of the day. The AJ, Aleister Black, Undertaker stuff was cool. I really dug that. I really like what they did there. There were some pros. That was one of them. A few. The rest of the show was just a giant waste of time. The last pay-per-view before WrestleMania, and you don't see Becky, you don't see Charlotte really. There's nothing really going on with Roman or good old Bill. You don't see Cena, you don't see The Fiend. No Edge, no Randy. Like 5 of the 6 big matches at WrestleMania really didn't have any say during this Elimination Chamber. And the whole pay-per-view was just useless. The Elimination Chamber pay-per-view was probably the worst pay-per-view I've seen in a very long time. Just from the standpoint that it was just useless. Just a useless pay-per-view. I don't advise anybody to watch it. I think I gave it a 4 out of 10. But that was just me being nice because I really wanted to give it like a 2 or a 3. I'll give it, actually, you know what? I'm going to change my review. Now that I'm thinking about it and I'm talking about this on this podcast, it was a 3. It was a 3. It was, I guarantee you, unless WWE messes something else up, that we're going to remember Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell was the worst pay-per-view of 2019. I'm going to go out to the limb and say Elimination Chamber will be remembered as the worst wrestling show pay-per-view of 2020. I'm going to go out with that limb. And when the new year comes, if we make it that way, if the coronavirus doesn't wipe us out because everybody's out there buying toilet paper. By the way, what do you really think toilet paper is going to do for the coronavirus? Are you going to wrap yourself around it and that's going to cover you from the disease or the, whatever it is, the virus? Everybody's out there in Costco fighting over toilet paper. My boys, you got to go just wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Get some hand sanitizer. You got people literally fighting like it's Black Friday and they're all trying to buy toilet paper when there's other things of necessity. That's besides the point. If we make it past the coronavirus and World War III and Trump getting reelected, and we could talk about 2021, I have my doubts, we're going to remember the Elimination Chamber as the worst show in wrestling. That's just my prediction. I'm going to go out on that limb and say that. Yeah, Elimination Chamber, complete waste of time. Just a complete waste of time. Watched Invisible Man. I know I talked about this last week that I really wanted to watch Invisible Man. I watched it Tuesday or Monday of last week. It's very sketchy going to the theater right now with the coronavirus, and you hear people coughing. You're like, oh fuck, very, very shook, man. But you can't let that stop life. You gotta do what you gotta do. But anyways, we watched Invisible Man. I dug it. There were some wonky things about the story that I wasn't really satisfied with. I thought the movie dragged a little bit too much at the end. Some of the extras, my God, some of the extras towards the third act of the movie were so extra, like some stupid moments here and there, but all in all, it's a very enjoyable, thrilling, suspenseful, slasher style of a movie. I really enjoyed it. I liked the conceptual idea of Invisible Man. I forget what her name is. The actress who was in this movie was so good. She was such a fantastic. I'm going to give her props and get her name for you guys because she was so good in this movie. She was fantastic. Everybody was fantastic. I dug the story and the essence of what the movie was. But I thought there were some things here and that I didn't agree with. Elizabeth Moss, man, she was really good. I really dug this. Oliver Jackson, who was in Haunting of Hill House, which I highly recommend. If you have not seen that on Netflix, go watch The Haunting of Hill House. But he was amazing as the Invisible Man. Elizabeth Moss, though, man, whew. Really great performance. Unbelievably fantastic performance from Elizabeth Moss. So if you have not watched Invisible Man, I highly recommend it. A little bit wonky story-wise. This is me being very nitpicky towards it, though. Like, this is me being like, well, let me find the things I didn't like of the movie. Because I genuinely did enjoy watching. It was very fun, suspenseful, as I said. And it reminded me very much so of, like, the old late 90s slasher films a la Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer. That's what Invisible Man really reminded me of those late 90s, very early 2000s slasher films, horror genre type of suspense action films that we got back in those days. It's a really thrilling, takes your breath away movie. A lot of practical stuff goes on where I really enjoyed what they did with Elizabeth Moss, and her acting again is so phenomenal. Her acting of her breaking completely psychologically was so well done and so well written and so well acted. I give them major props for that. For a movie that only cost like $8 million, I believe it's already at like the $50 million. They tripled, quadrupled their budget. This was a great thriller of a movie. For a very early year thriller movie, you don't really expect those to be good, but this was fantastic. So I highly recommend Invisible Man. I see a lot of people give that movie like a 9 or an 8. I gave it a 7. I had it at 8, but just some of the stuff was wonky. The cinematography for it, beautiful, loved it. The audio, the music in there was absolutely great. The soundtrack for it was so good. So yeah, I highly recommend Invisible Man. If you have a chance to go watch it, make sure you watch it, or try to find an illegal stream. Don't try to go to the theaters right now. We all should be in quarantine with everybody just going around. Very sketchy again to go to the movies to watch this, but I very much enjoyed Invisible Man. They also dropped the Black Widow trailer. I don't know if I should do a reaction to it, though. Because here's the thing. I gotta be honest with you, my boys. I love the MCU. I always have, and I always will. Big fan of Taskmaster. I think he's a very underrated Marvel villain. But I'm finding myself having a hard time caring about Black Widow. It's that my dog almost pukes. I'm having a hard time caring about Black Widow. And it's not because of any, don't try to make it a feminist thing. It has nothing to do with that. I watched Birds of Prey opening weekend. Nobody else did, apparently. It's just, I have a hard time caring about Black Widow because I just want to see what's next for the MCU. And I feel like Black Widow is just revisiting history that I don't know I necessarily care about. I don't know if I really want to know the story about what happened there. I liked what I saw from the trailer. I saw bits and pieces of it in the morning. Reason why I didn't do a reaction for it, it's because there's so many reaction channels, my boys. I'm really souring on reactions, and I hope that doesn't make you unsubscribe from the channel. I'm very much interested on podcasting, and I'm still going to do reactions to a lot of wrestling stuff. So wrestling content and podcasting is really what gets my juices going. And there's movies here and there I will do a reaction to if it catches my interest. But Black Widow's one where I'm just like, yeah, the action looks phenomenal. It looks like a comic book Missions Impossible. It looks really fun, and I'm very excited to see Taskmaster. I love how one of the scenes in the trailer is Homeboy is watching what Black Widow does in Iron Man 2. And I don't blame him for being a villain. Anybody that has to watch Iron Man 2, I would go crazy too, my boys. That movie, man, after how great, Iron Man is such a perfect movie. The sequel is so dog shit, my boys. If you're forced to watch that movie, I don't blame Taskmaster for now becoming the Taskmaster and being like, I'm going to take this chick out. But I know the trailer dropped. I'm finding myself finding it difficult to want to care about that story arc because I know it takes place in the past of the MCU. And I know they're adding things that are going to happen in the future, especially with General Ross and the Thunderbolts and all that, but we'll see that later on. But I'm just having a hard time caring at the moment, and I'm sure I will. But if you're wondering why I didn't do a trailer reaction for Black Widow, it's because of that. I'm not invested into it as much as I want to be. I want to see what's next. I want to see Internals. I'm very excited for that. I want to see what world Internals opens. That entices me and excites me and grasps my interest more than Black Widow. I have to be honest. Even Falcon versus Winter Soldier, very intrigued about that. The Scarlet Witch Vision series. That's the most anticipated Marvel Disney Plus show for me. That show is going to be phenomenal with Vision and Scarlet Witch. I'm very excited to see that one. I'm very excited to see what happens in Thor 4. And they just announced today that the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to be in Thor 4. Christian Bale is reportedly going to be the villain in Thor 4, And so I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the MCU, but I want to see what's next. I feel like Black Widow is a step back, and I don't want to step back like MJ. I want to move forward. And that's why I'm turned off of the idea of Black Widow, but I'm excited about Taskmaster, but I'm afraid of watching this movie and then seeing them get rid of Taskmaster is going to hurt your boy, because I feel like Taskmaster you could use for a big Marvel team up. He's that good. I would prefer to see Taskmaster be the villain of a Black Panther 2. That's just my opinion. I know a lot of people are excited for Black Widow. It's expected to come out in May, if we're still here. But if it does, I'm sure it'll make almost $1 billion. Scarlett Johansson is still a big name, and she'll probably, bring it in, and I'm sure Black Widow will be very successful, and I think Wonder Woman 2 will be very successful. But, those two movies, it'll be interesting to see how those things play out, because after Birds of Prey, we'll see what happens. It's very intriguing. But yeah, I just, I knew it came out. I know a lot of people are wondering if I was going to do a reaction to that one. I'm going to skip it. I'm going to skip it for now, and we'll see what else drops in the near future. We talked about this last week as well. Tom Brady. This was brought to my attention that he's starring his own Hollywood production. I don't know if that means he's going to join the Chargers. I don't know if that means he's going to join the Raiders. I know Dana White is pushing for that very heavily, but we'll see. By the way, Dana, man, this last UFC fight on Saturday, watch some of it. The worst main event I have ever watched in my lifetime. That was such a bad main event. And I love how Dana was like, yeah, I shouldn't have made this fight, because it was such a bad fight. But everything leading up to that main event was so fire. The women's fight. If you could find that fight, I'd highly recommend it, because that was a war, my boys. We watched a little bit of it, and we saw the end results. Whoo! My homegirl looked like she was mega mind after that fight. Like, her brain was throbbing out of her skull after that fight. I believe it was the co-main event as well. And that was probably the fight of the night. And it definitely should have been the main event. Hands down, it should have been the main event. But yeah, Dana dropped the ball in that UFC fight. But yeah, Tom Brady, a Hollywood production team. Doesn't sound like he's staying in New England. Raiders, please. Look, I love Carr. And I still kind of believe in him. But not really, not necessarily. I think the Raiders got to open the piggy bank. Tom Brady is once in a lifetime. I still think he's going to go to Tennessee. But if you're going to open up a Hollywood production team, does it make sense to play in Tennessee, or does it make sense to play for the Chargers or play in Las Vegas when you can take like a 30-minute chopper from LAX or Burbank to Las Vegas? I'm throwing it out there. Very weird. It reminds me of when LeBron was going Hollywood before his move to the Lakers. LeBron made it very kind of well known that he was coming here with all the Hollywood Space Jam 2 noise. Tom Brady looks like he's doing the same thing with opening his own Hollywood production team. So yeah, I'm still going to go out on the limb and say he stays with New England or he goes to Tennessee. But I'm starting to maybe believe in him going to the Chargers. I'm starting to believe in that. I think that has some momentum now. The Rams' new logo. My God. Rams, what are you doing? I had heard the Rams were going to introduce a new logo and a new jersey. It probably should be up. I should probably have posted a picture. It's probably right here. What are we doing? What are we doing? Did you just say, hey, Chargers, can we copy your logo? Because this is bad. This is a really bad logo, man. And I know they're introducing new jerseys. I'm very fearful. I'm hoping they hear the outcry, because a lot of fans are saying this is one of the ugliest logos ever, and they quickly ramify it. Because I'm going to feel bad for my LA Rams fans if they got to represent that logo, because that is an absolutely disgusting logo. That is just absolutely unfair. It doesn't look right. It just does not look right at all. We got some questions. The question parts of the show. We only got 3 for today. The number 1 question comes from my boy Orange E. I'm gonna try to set something up with my boy. You guys have not seen him on Malfunction, my boys. Corona Seltzer. Just gotta wet the palate a little bit. Orange E. His question left me shook. That's why I'm like stammering everywhere. I'm going to try to get RNG back on the podcast at some point. I miss my boy. You guys now have seen him for a hot minute, for a very, very hot minute. But we'll try to get him back on the podcast at some point. But he asked the question, how big is your junk? I'm going to skip that question. I'm going to skip it. You're going to have to ask somebody else. Maybe we can get a caller to call in and confirm with this question. Can we get somebody? No? Okay. We'll leave that question for another day. We'll answer this question when you're on the podcast. I'll show you live on camera. Question number 2. Have you heard of Matt Barnes and Stephen Jackson's All the Smoke podcast? Yes, I have. And it's a fantastic podcast. It's probably the best NBA podcast in the game today. All the Smoke podcast is very, very well done. Funny little story. I was emailed by a platform that they're on to join that platform and to move the Hollywood Uncensored podcast to that platform. That was something that was offered to me.